He was found there, still in his favorite chair, just a quiet presence. No signs of a struggle, no shouts for help, just a profound silence. The TV was still humming, his dressing gown was open, and there was an empty feeling in the room. The kind of quiet that means something big, something permanent, has just happened. The official report said natural causes, but for those of us who knew what to look for, it was a different story. It was a silent crash of hormones, a slow fading of a man's life force, not because of sickness, but because he just let things go. And sadly, he's not the only one. Every single year, thousands of older guys go through this same drop in energy, in sexual health, in clear thinking, all while thinking they're doing the right thing by giving up something they figure they don't need anymore. For ages, we've told men to stay away from taking pleasure in themselves, that it's childish, embarrassing, and just not necessary. But after 60, holding onto that old idea can quietly take away everything you've got. Because here's the plain truth nobody talks about. When you stop masturbating as you get older, your body doesn't just hit pause. It starts to fall apart. Your prostate can get backed up. Your testosterone levels tank. Your ability to bounce back emotionally just withers away. And by the time you actually feel these effects, you're already years behind. I'm Dr. Benjamin Carter, a board-certified urologist and a specialist in men's health, with over 20 years of helping older men get back their energy, their self-belief, and their quality of life. I've sat down with farmers, military vets, school teachers, and grandfathers, all kinds of men who genuinely believed they were doing the right thing by holding back. And I've seen that quiet look of regret in their eyes when the damage finally hit home, because most of them had no clue that the habits they picked up decades ago, the very things society told them were shameful, are now silently working against them during the most important years of their lives. But there's good news. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 very real health problems that pop up when you stop masturbating in your later years, and even more importantly, how to stop them before it's too late. These are simple, practical, doctor-approved ways that thousands of my patients have used to protect their sexual health, get their energy back, and avoid common issues that most guys just shrug off as getting old. And stick around until the very end, because the last problem I'll share is one even most doctors won't mention. But it's also the one that could secretly triple your chances of serious prostate trouble if you don't deal with it. If you care about keeping your body strong, your confidence high, and your independence as you get older, you'll want to hear this. If you're watching right now, type 1 in the comments if you're with me, or 0 if you're not so sure. I'm fine with either, because this is a conversation older men deserve to have without shame and with real answers. So let's kick things off with the first, and maybe most dangerously ignored, problem that comes with giving up masturbation when you're old. I've seen it way too many times. A man in his late 60s or early 70s walks into my office feeling confused and totally frustrated. He tells me he hasn't had a natural erection in months. Sometimes it's been over a year. And what really bothers him isn't just not being able to perform. It's how suddenly it all happened. One day he felt normal, the next, something just stopped working inside. It catches most men completely off guard. Why? Because no one ever told them that stopping sexual activity could make their sexual function just fade away, like a muscle you never use. Let me be clear. Your penis isn't just for show. It's a working part of your body that needs regular blood flow to stay healthy. When you go a long time without any stimulation, especially after 60, something risky starts to happen. Blood flow slows down. Not enough oxygen gets where it needs to go. The tissues start to get stiff. Not in a good way, but in a way that leads to scarring, nerve damage, and a permanent loss of the ability to get an erection. That's not just a theory. That's basic science about how your blood vessels work. Think of it like this. If you completely stopped moving your legs for 6 months, what would happen? You'd lose muscle, coordination, flexibility. You might even forget how to walk. The same idea applies to your penis. After a certain age, it doesn't just sit there waiting. It actually starts to shut down if it's not used. And the worst part is, this decline doesn't come with a loud warning. It's quiet, it sneaks up on you. You don't notice it until it's too late. One day you realize your morning erections are gone. Then, even touching yourself or fantasizing doesn't do the trick. Eventually, even with medication, your body just doesn't respond like it used to because the foundation has already crumbled. I've had men sit across from me, tears in their eyes, asking if they can get it back. Some do with intense therapy, big changes to their lifestyle and medical help. But others, they waited too long. They thought quitting masturbation was harmless, a sign of being in control. But in reality, it was the quiet start of things breaking down. And let me be very clear, this isn't about being obsessed with sex. It's about protecting a really important part of your blood flow system, your hormone balance, and your sense of being a man. Keeping up with occasional solo activity, even just once or twice a week, can keep the blood moving, keep the nerves alive, and remind your body that this function still matters. The truth is, if you don't use it, you start to lose it. And when you're older, that loss can be forever. I've seen it absolutely crush men. Not because they're trying to impress anyone, but because it hits their self-esteem, their relationships, their very identity as a man. And what's most sad is, it was totally preventable, completely preventable. All it needed was consistency. Not going overboard, but just paying attention. Now, while most men worry about losing their erections, what they don't realize is that's just the beginning. Because the next problem from stopping masturbation hits something even deeper, your hormones. And once those start to crash, the ripple effects spread far beyond the bedroom. Let me show you exactly how it usually starts. It's subtle. A man stops feeling like himself, but he can't quite say why. He's not as excited to get out of bed anymore. He skips his walks. His appetite changes. His mood gets flatter. He feels more tired during the day, more annoyed, more withdrawn. And deep down, he senses something important slipping away, but he can't put his finger on it. In my clinic, I've seen men blame it on getting older, on stress, on bad sleep. But when we dig deeper, we often find the same main cause. Their testosterone has dropped. Not just naturally with age, but sped up by the complete lack of sexual stimulation. And here's what most people never hear. Masturbation is one of the few natural ways older men can actually get their body to make more testosterone. It's not about sex or fantasy. It's about biology. When you regularly get aroused and release, your brain sends signals that help control your hormone rhythm. Dopamine levels go up. A part of your brain called the hypothalamus gets active, and your testicles, even in your 60s or 70s, get the message. Keep making testosterone. But when you completely stop that process, when you go weeks or months with no sexual activity at all, your body gets the opposite message. It thinks intimacy isn't needed anymore. So it slows down hormone production. And once that cycle starts, it can be really hard to turn around. Men with low testosterone don't just feel tired. They start to lose who they are. They can't focus. They lose interest in things that used to make them proud. Their muscles start to get weaker. Their bones become more fragile. They're more likely to feel depressed. And maybe most dangerously of all, their risk of heart problems goes up, putting them in more danger of heart attacks and strokes. I've seen men who used to be full of life become shadows of themselves in just a few short years. Not because they were sick, but because nobody ever told them how vital, healthy, regular sexual stimulation is for keeping hormones balanced. One patient of mine, a retired firefighter, told me that after his hormone levels dropped, he started to feel like he didn't matter anymore. His words still stick with me. He said, "Doc, I don't even recognize the man in the mirror." And I'll never forget the look in his eyes. It wasn't about how he looked. It was about deep sadness. And this didn't have to happen. With a little bit of knowledge and a simple habit he thought was wrong, he could have kept not just his hormones, but his happiness, his energy, his drive. Because here's the tough truth. Once your testosterone crashes in old age, It can take years of treatment and thousands of dollars to get it back, if it comes back at all. But with steady, respectful engagement in your own intimate life, you can hold the line longer than most people think is possible. And while hormones are often invisible, the next consequence is something every man feels in a much more physical, sometimes painful way. It's a problem that builds up quietly deep inside your body until it starts messing with your daily life. And most guys don't even realize it's connected to one simple thing they're no longer doing. Let me explain. There's a kind of discomfort older men don't often talk about. A dull, heavy ache deep in the pelvis, a weird pressure after sitting for too long, or that nagging feeling like you always have to pee, even when your bladder isn't full. It doesn't hit you all at once like a heart attack. It builds up slowly, silently, until it starts throwing off your whole day. And by the time most men bring it up to their doctor, they've already been living with it for months, sometimes years. What's shocking is how often this quiet suffering can be traced back to one easily missed cause: prostate congestion, which happens when you don't ejaculate enough. Your prostate isn't just sitting there in the male body. It's an active gland that makes and stores seminal fluid. That fluid is supposed to move. It's meant to be flushed out. When you stop masturbating or having sex completely, especially as you get older, that fluid just sits there. And when it sits, it gets thicker. Pressure builds up. Inflammation starts to creep in. That's when you begin to notice changes. Slower pee flow, discomfort in your lower back, that constant need to go feeling that wakes you up in the middle of the night. As a urologist, I can't tell you how many older patients come in thinking they have a bladder problem, only to find out they're dealing with an irritated, inflamed prostate. In many cases, the answer isn't medication. It's movement. It's your body's natural cleaning process through regular ejaculation. And when that process is ignored for too long, the outcomes can be really bad. Some men get chronic prostatitis, a painful, long-lasting inflammation that's hard to treat and even harder to live with. Others end up needing surgery just to feel normal again. And beyond the physical discomfort, there's another layer of danger that most men never hear about. Research, including a famous Harvard study, has shown that regular ejaculation might help lower the risk of prostate cancer. The idea is simple. When the prostate is regularly emptied, it cuts down on the buildup of potentially harmful stuff. But when that fluid is allowed to sit stagnant for months on end, it might increase inflammation and the long-term risk. One man I treated hadn't had any sexual activity for almost 2 years. He said he didn't feel the need, thought that part of his life was over. But when his PSA levels jumped and we ran more tests, we found a lot of congestion. His prostate was swollen and irritated. And he was facing talks about biopsies that could have been avoided with something as simple and natural as having occasional releases. This isn't about encouraging wild urges or going overboard. It's about preventing pain. It's about understanding that a man's body doesn't suddenly stop needing care after 60. If anything, it needs more attention, more respect. The prostate is one of the most vulnerable organs for older men. And when you neglect it, the damage isn't just uncomfortable. It can completely change your life. But while a blocked-up prostate might cause pain, irritation, and endless nights running to the bathroom, the final consequence hits even deeper. It strikes at the very core of how a man feels about himself. And for many, it's the one they never see coming until it's already taken hold. Let me show you what I mean. It's the quietest decline of all, and often the most heartbreaking. It doesn't show up on blood tests. It's not something you can easily measure, but you feel it deep down. A slow fading of that spark you once had. A creeping sense of being disconnected. A distance from yourself that you just can't explain. It happens little by little. You stop masturbating because you think you don't need to anymore. You tell yourself it's just old age, or you've lost interest, or it's just how life goes when you're not in a relationship. But over time, that decision doesn't just affect your body. It gets into your mind, your feelings, your very sense of being alive. I've talked to men who have said they feel empty inside. Not because of sickness or pain, but because they've gone months, sometimes years, without any kind of release, without any intimacy, even with themselves. And slowly they start to feel invisible, unwanted, unnecessary. They don't talk about it, of course. Most older men were never taught how, but it shows in the way they walk, in the way they avoid mirrors, in the way their voices get quieter when you ask how they're doing. This isn't about sex. This is about true vitality, about the subtle but powerful link between your physical body and your emotional well-being. When you completely give up self-pleasure, you cut off one of the last remaining paths to joy, to recognizing yourself, to feeling human. And for men over 60, that's not just a loss, it's a deep wound. Because arousal, pleasure, and release aren't just for young people. They're part of what keeps your brain active, your hormones balanced, your emotions healthy. On a brain level, the chemicals released during masturbation, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins are essential for managing mood, reducing worry, and keeping your emotions steady. Without them, men are more likely to experience depression, loneliness, and even problems with thinking clearly. I've seen men who used to be confident and social slowly become isolated, withdrawn, and just not caring. Not because their lives changed dramatically, but because they stopped connecting with a part of themselves that once made them feel alive. And here's what makes this so dangerous. Many men don't even realize this connection exists. They never link the emotional numbness to the choice they made months ago to stop being intimate with themselves. By the time they feel the effects, the damage has already started. And fixing it takes more than just hormone therapy or a new routine. It takes rebuilding the relationship with yourself. Remembering that even as you get older, your body still wants to feel, to express, to connect. This is the consequence that breaks my heart the most, because it's the one that quietly steals a man's dignity without him even knowing it. It takes away the quiet confidence he used to carry, the warmth he used to offer, and leaves behind an empty shell he no longer recognizes. But here's the truth I want every man to hear. It's never too late to come back to yourself. Never too late to wake up that energy you thought was gone. And in the final part of this video, I'll show you exactly how. Simple, science-backed steps you can take today to get back what so many older men have lost, and what you still have the power to protect. Let's finish this together. There's this idea many older men have that intimacy, pleasure, and desire are things you just grow out of. That after a certain age, your body is supposed to go quiet. That it's noble, maybe even respectable, to give that part of yourself up. But after over 20 years as a doctor working with men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, I can tell you that belief is costing far too many men their health, their happiness, and who they are. You've heard today how stopping masturbation can lead to your sexual function slowly breaking down, a dangerous drop in your hormones, your prostate swelling up and getting inflamed, and a quiet emotional numbness that wears away your spirit day by day. These aren't small changes. These are life-changing shifts that happen not because of getting old, but because of neglecting yourself. But the good news is, it doesn't have to be this way. Your body still remembers how to feel. Your mind still longs for connection, and your health still depends on you honoring every part of yourself, even the parts nobody else sees. This isn't about wanting sex all the time. It's about life. It's about keeping what makes you feel strong, complete, and human. You don't need to feel ashamed for choosing health over staying quiet. If this message hit home for you, I invite you to really take it seriously. Take it personally because it is personal. And if you're ready to take back control of this part of your life, I'm with you. You're not alone and you're not done yet. If this message touched something inside you, even just a little bit, type 1 in the comments to let me know you're still here, that you still care, that you're still fighting for your health. And if it didn't, that's okay too. Type 0 and tell me what you need. Either way, your voice matters and you're not alone.